Hello, my name is Derek Benish, and I'm here with Going Live with Global Learning. And joining us today is Elissa Meineke. And Elissa, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Absolutely. So as Derek said, my name's Elissa, and I'm originally from the Kelowna area, which is about 30 minutes south of Iowa City. Grew up there, currently live in Cedar Rapids, though, with my husband. I work at Kirkwood. I've had a few different positions over the years, but currently I'm a TRIO SSS advisor here.
Great. And you also went to Kirkwood as a student, and that's some of what we're going to talk about today, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So when you were growing up in the Kelowna area, did you imagine that you would be going to a different country, doing a study abroad experience?
No, not at a young age, at least. Like Kelowna is very small, population of around probably 3,000, not super diverse. Didn't know a whole lot of people who had traveled internationally. It wasn't until I was a little older, in like high school, college. My older brother actually had studied abroad, and that kind of got me thinking about it after hearing about his experience and how much he enjoyed it.
And are you from a big family or a small family or how many?
Yeah, family of six, so I don't know, medium maybe.
Okay, very good.
So yeah, I had my older brother, and then I was second
Mm-hmm.
out of
Mm-hmm.
four kids. So
Yeah,
yeah.
great. And then when you were at Kirkwood, you did when you were at Kirkwood as a student, you did two
hmm
actual study abroad experiences.
Correct.
Let's start with the first one. Could you tell us about the first one?
Yeah, so this will take us back to summer of 2011. It's been a little bit since I've been a student here, but that trip was to Guatemala with Lisa Hebel. And the trip had a lot of the students were actually in the dental hygiene program, but liberal arts and other majors could attend as well. And that was me. I was a liberal arts major. And while they were doing, teeth cleaning with some of the locals, we were able to volunteer in other areas. For example, I was in like an orphanage playing with some of the babies and kiddos there. And then we also did a food and clothing drive. And then something we all like took part in on that trip was building a house for a family in need. So we actually had 6 different home building teams.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to provide 6 houses to some families there, which was an incredible experience.
Before you went, and then while you were there, did you have any experience with interacting with folks from a different language background, or that was your kind of your first time?
Kind of our first time. Yeah, I knew some basic Spanish just from taking Spanish in high school. But yeah, when like the family would come over while we were building, we were able to interact a little bit. But it's amazing how much you can just like have fun and connect without very much like of the same language happening. So that was really neat, and it was neat being able to connect with the family. I didn't know if they would come on site often, but they did because, as you can imagine, that was like super exciting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite the experience because we didn't have power tools. So you think like, oh, where's the cement truck, gonna come in? And they're like, nope, you're gonna mix that by hand. And we're like, oh, okay.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna mix the cement by hand.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So the fact that maybe someone thinking about doing a study abroad experience or going to Guatemala,
hmm
and maybe not being confident in another language in Spanish, that shouldn't be something that would prevent them from going. Is
hmm
what I hear you saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Lisa, the faculty member on the trip, she spoke Spanish. So when we were, going to different activities as a group, she was always there. And then we also had a few different other students on our trip who spoke. So in my house, for example, one of the students spoke quite fluently. And so that did really help because our host mom didn't speak much English. So around the breakfast table, she was able to have some conversation. But even if she didn't, we would have been fine. They said that wasn't like a requirement by any means.
So thinking back to that experience that you had in Guatemala,
hmm
um, what is something that, of course, we're looking like more than a decade out from that.
Right.
What is something that you kind of comes to your mind that you remember kind of the most often about that experience
hmm
and that trip?
Yeah, I would say just the joy the people and especially the kids had. I remember being at the building site and, the kids would maybe have some sticks, a ball, and they were playing in the dirt. But they were so happy, and they were just so excited we were there. And I think, so often here we have so much, there's a lot of distraction. And I think, something there is they had a solid foundation in what really mattered, community and connection. And I think here it's really easy to take things for granted. And that was very eye opening there. I came home and I'm like, wow, I'm blessed with so much that they didn't have access to. So I think that's something that really just changed my mindset, opened my eyes, because you get so stuck in kind of your bubble here and kind of think, oh, there's different cultures out there, but
Hmm.
looks pretty similar to my life. And I think I was like, wow, yeah, it was not
Hmm.
not the case in this
Hmm.
region.
Hmm. Those are some great insights and
Mm-hmm.
something, yeah, great take from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was an experience in Guatemala,
Mm-hmm.
and then I see here in the notes that you had another um, study abroad experience
Yeah.
the next year,
Mm-hmm.
2012. So uh, help us understand, why did you go again, like another experience, and then tell us about that experience, and yeah, where did you go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just had such an incredible time in Guatemala, and I just knew I wanted to do this more. And something that helped me with that, because a lot of students, the biggest concern is the finances, right? But I was living at home as a student and commuting, and so that helped me save up money. It was still hard, but it was doable. And I knew if I could, I wanted to do another one. And so I actually chose the Tanzania Africa trip. Um, and this one was with Jim Cochran, and Cyrus from Study Abroad was on that trip as well, which was awesome because he spoke Swahili and
Mm,
we didn't. So that was very helpful multiple times during the trip. And on this specific trip, we were teaching English to low income elementary age students. And then, of course, we had different, cultural activities. We were able to go on a safari, which was super awesome on one of the weekends, and on which was totally like being in Lion King, what you would expect, lions, giraffes, hippos, zebras. Really, really cool experience. And on another weekend, we went to Zanzibar Island. So
mm,
the neat thing is although we were volunteering every single day and going to our school. They also weaved in a lot of different cultural activities, trips, and they did teach us some of the language, so we were able to survive in moments without Cyrus, but we still leaned heavily on him, especially when we were trying to figure out prices for the safari and
mhm.
group things. So yeah, those are some of the highlights. And then there was some cooking classes and learning about the culture too, which was really neat as well. Made it a more rich
Hmm.
experience.
And how long were you in Tanzania?
I think so. It was between 2.5, 3 weeks around there.
Okay.
So both of them were I think Guatemala was around that 15-day
Hmm.
mark. So
Hmm.
both of them were around that length.
So that's enough to get used to the different time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely was a shock and took some adjustment. And the flight to Africa. So I got to ease into it. My first time on a plane was Guatemala, much shorter flight, not as much time change. And so Africa was a long one. You're like, well, we're
Hmm.
going to eat meals on the plane too. So, and then other than that, I would say just like I said before, community and values were so different. So it was a shock, but it was also really cool. And just being able to see someone walking down the street and taking time just to talk to someone on the front porch that they know, time was definitely different there. Here it's okay, right on time, the meeting's starting, the bus is arriving. There it might be oh, it'll be here in another 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Just hold on.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, just different values and how they came to be in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned in Tanzania that you were helping teach English in a school.
mhm.
Um, could you talk a little bit about um, like notion of school and school building and classroom space and kind of what that learning environment looks like compared with the K-12 education that you had. Like
Yeah.
what would you say are the differences that you experienced in that
Yeah.
environment?
I'm glad you mentioned that because when I say school, a certain image probably comes to people's mind. But most of the rooms, it was just like a dirt floor in the classroom. There were a few different rooms and classrooms, but a lot of the different ages would like come together for certain lessons. Like we might start out as a big group and then break down into smaller for lessons for that day. Um, None of them were above fourth grade, I don't think. So definitely what we would consider elementary age students. There was not a bathroom facility in the school. You would just go to home or a nearby business or restaurant, perhaps. And I would say, as far as like the environment, it was very like casual. I remember starting the day, they would come in and they would actually serve them porridge in the morning, but they're just kind of sitting around. There's no lunch table. They would just have their cup and spoon and get a scoop of their porridge. And then in the classrooms, it was just kind of these wooden benches and desk. So very simple. I didn't really see any, textbooks or books or things you can make copies of. So we did a lot of planning outside, and we would bring in activities or worksheets. And I would say, again, very casual as far as the way we taught. We were working on learning colors in English one day and just kind of holding up the color, and all of them would like yell out. The enthusiasm was really fun. They were really excited to learn, really excited to have us visiting there for those
Mm-hmm.
few weeks.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about these two experiences, Guatemala and Tanzania, are there some memorable food experiences that you had? And I'm going to ask that also in terms of what is your like in general, what is your favorite cuisine, and then what are some of your favorite foods from those um, opportunities, those study abroad opportunities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, both had incredible food. I'm not a picky eater at all. I actually like to try a lot of different things. But some things people would expect in Guatemala, like the tacos, rice, beans, were all excellent. Amazing guacamole. Like if you could get that for a meal, you definitely ordered that. And then the fresh fruit, of course, there was really good. And in Africa, same, just completely different cuisine. We would eat out like most nights, but then we would be able to come back to our home base, and there was like a chef there for other meals. So the chef would make, I believe, like mostly the local food. I won't be able to remember all the different names of the dishes, but I enjoyed all the food. I would say overall, some of my favorite cuisines are either like Mexican or Thai food. That's a tough question,
Mm-hmm.
though.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that there's some good options here in Cedar Rapids for those?
Mm-hmm.
Great,
Yeah, yeah.
great, great. And so you are currently working, as you mentioned, as
Mm-hmm.
a trio advisor. Yes,
Correct.
and so you've been at Kirkwood as a student, and now you're working at Kirkwood.
Mm-hmm.
Also followed that same path. Um, how would you describe Kirkwood in a couple words?
Yeah, I would say opportunity comes to mind as a student and as an employee. Obviously, the study abroad experiences I had just made my experience so rich here, and even just the connections I made there with faculty. I still see them around, and it's always fun, like touching base with them and talking about some memories from the trip, and then other students. Fun fact, the current president, Kirkwood president at the time, Mick, went with us to Guatemala. So that was a fun connection too. He was on my house building team. So there are a lot of opportunity. And then as an employee, I feel like there's so much offered here through just different the classes or speakers, which I just really appreciate what that opens up.
Great. Yeah, I remember, Mick in one meeting after he had gone on that experience, talking
Oh, yeah.
about how impactful it was, and I know he shared some photos at like a beginning of the year type
Yes.
meeting or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
It was
Great.
great to have him on it.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And are there any last words of encouragement that you have for someone who might be considering a study abroad experience, but is kind of on the fence about it?
I would say go for it. Honestly, I always tell students, after you graduate, there's not someone there being like, hey, we have $1,000 scholarship to offer to go towards your traveling. And that's something that most students receive here through Kirkwood Study Abroad. And it's just an incredible experience. And it's going to just add to your educational experience so much more. You're going to meet people, and it just opens up different doors down the road and just gives you different perspectives you just can't fully get in the classroom, I believe.
Thank you for joining us this time for Going Live with Global Learning. If you're interested in more information about study abroad, please come to 2008 Iowa Hall. You can remember that because of 2008, 2000 great.